My name's Ferne, and I'm a therapist who specialises in working with anxiety, panic, and OCD. And I work with this client group because I've recovered.
Hello, my name's Andrew from Andrew Mellish Therapy, and like Fern, I'm also a therapist who works with anxiety and OCD because I've recovered.
And what we're going to be doing in this series is exploring our own experiences of recovery. So, in line with this.
Yeah. Remember that time when we both struggled with visual disturbances?
I do. I remember being really obsessed with this, and if you've been following my work for a while, I do so much work within, I guess what some people like to call visual snow syndrome. I choose not to use that, and we're both kind of in agreement, aren't we? We
take a bit of a different approach, don't we, and believe it's a form of or a presentation of sensorimotor OCD.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me personally, this was, I think, my first real presentation of sensorimotor OCD. And what happened for me was one day I'd had a really kind of stressful time with work. I was already struggling with health anxiety. I just didn't know what it was called at the time. And one day I woke up, you can see my other videos, I'll go into loads more detail there, but ultimately one day I woke up with visual snow syndrome. It terrified me, absolutely terrified me. I went through all of the tests, went to Manchester Eye Hospital. I was told that they thought my retina was detaching and peeling away from my eyeballs, and that was so scary. But yeah, I was diagnosed with visual snow syndrome. And I remember for me, I think the worst part was, what many people talk about, the worst part was feeling like I couldn't let go of the obsession. My biggest fear was, what if I can't disengage from this sensation the rest of my life? And I was in agony, absolute agony with this.
Yeah, it's hard. It feels really sticky, doesn't it? Yeah. I remember my first experience of it was, again, waking up at a real stressful time in my life, and then waking up, sort of when you're in that stage of waking up where you're still half asleep, half awake, but I could see the static on the inside of my eyes, and I thought, well, that's a lot more prominent than normal.
Yeah.
And then waking up, sort of going to the toilet, and it's still really dark, but my eyes are open now, and I can still see it, and it just felt like there was sort of like a film over my eyes, and I was like, no, it's stuck, I can't get it off, it's sticky. I was obsessed with, oh my god, this is here forever, my brain is broke, something is like seriously wrong here.
Yeah, what if this is me forever? That's a big part of it, isn't it? An absolutely big part of it.
Yeah, I can't just not notice it because it's there in my vision, it's everywhere I look. It was awful.
Yeah. And for me, when this first onset, it left me, like I said, I was in agony, or I thought that I was in agony. I was scared to death of this. And I know I talk about in my other videos the cycle of OCD. I'm going to post this here, by the way, just some reference. So this is the sensorimotor cycle of OCD. And actually what's going on here is we become obsessed with, because we're frightened of the intrusive sensation, we become obsessed with it, we become frightened of it, we misinterpret threat. And then the next part, which is the most dangerous part really, is the compulsions that we do to try and get rid of. I don't know what yours were, but for me personally, my first of all, avoidance. I've decided I need to avoid my life. I can't see my friends anymore. I need to lie in bed and just wait for this to go. I started avoiding caffeine. I had do you remember the special lamp?
Yeah.
I had a special lamp with an eye because I felt like I needed a certain kind of lighting.
I remember a lot of mine were more avoidance and trying my hardest not to notice it. And mine was like, trying really, really hard not to notice it. I remember feeling a bit sticky after we just moved in here, and as everyone will probably know, moving house is really, really stressful.
White walls as well.
And I remember actually when you come out of the flat and you go down the stairs, all the walls in the corridor are white, and I remember getting to and it was the same time every single day. Out of the corner of my eye, like I'd see it and I'd fixate on like the static of the white wall and be like, no, and it just became a thing, as these things often do. It just became a thing, and every morning, and again, it just felt like it stuck, and it felt really, really hard to shift every morning. At no other point in my day though, which I thought was quite weird, it was just this specific part of my morning, walking down the stairs, oh my god, I can see it, it's on the white wall next to me.
It made an association. And ultimately, the trickiest part of visual snow syndrome, or as we like to call it, it's part sensorimotor obsession, is the fear of, what if I can never disengage from this? But the thing is, when we try and not think about something, we try and not think about a pink elephant, the more we say, I can't think about this, and try and push it away, the more it's going to come up. Common catchphrase, what we resist persists, and it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's really, really difficult as well, but we do empathise because, especially when it's in your vision, it is hard to try and disengage from it because it's almost like everywhere you look, it kind of follows, and it is hard at first to check if it's still there or not.
That is a big compulsion, actually. So looking at this cycle, checking for it is a massive compulsion. Try not to check, try not to Google, try not to reassurance seek, and be like, oh, do you see that as well? But if you take a look at this cycle, of course, the compulsions, they give you very, very temporary relief. All that it does is it teaches your brain visual disturbances in and of themselves are dangerous, which they aren't. But, it's just part of the cycle of panic, isn't it? And it's just what your brain has latched onto and decided, this is the thing that I'm going to be.
Yeah, I think the association is a big one as well. For me, I remember in an old therapy room, I used to see clients. The walls, again, were painted bright white for whatever reason. And it became a thing where I would sort of zone out. The client would come out of focus and I could just see the wall behind them. And I could just see so many little, as if it was like a petri dish, like in science, you'd have bacteria in a petri dish and it was just floating everywhere. And the more I looked at it, the more it was prominent. But then it's like, oh, actually, no, I've noticed this and I could choose to focus my attention on that. But instead it's kind of like, no, actually, I'm going to come back and do with the client that I have in front of me.
And that is how we break this cycle. It's about not engaging with the compulsion to check or to give it lots of attention. And actually what we teach in our work is the importance of redirecting your attention, almost like past and through the disturbances and onto the world again. And this is tricky. This is really difficult. But with time, we can build with that attention muscle like you would at the gym. And over time, you can learn to disengage. Where I am now, and I don't mind sharing this, honestly, the pixels of the static were so big, I couldn't make out people's expressions on their face. Floaters galore, nighttime blindness, you name it, I had it. Now, I don't notice my visual static or visual disturbances. From time to time, if I'm really stressed, I might notice, I don't know, the light might be a bit brighter perhaps. Or I might notice my visual snow, but it's minuscule in comparison to how it was, and I can very, very quickly disengage from it, and it doesn't ruin my life. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. I was actually saying this earlier today, where on Saturday morning, actually, I think, Saturday morning, it was, again, early in the morning, sort of half asleep, half awake, kind of aware of what was going on, but it just felt like, because, we create a lot of content about it, it's probably been on my mind at the forefront of my cognitive brain, and I was just like, visual snow, and I was like, I can see it. And then I probably spent about an hour tossing and turning again. Oh my God, it's stuck. But it's like, Andrew, actually, no. Remember what you need to practice what you preach and alone. And then by the end of it, I forgot to even tell you about it. And until the evening, I was like, oh my God, I never told you about what happened this morning.
And sometimes the threat response, it can kick off. We can see flashes in the corners of our eyes, or like you said, the visual snow, and our threat response can kick off. There's a danger, it sounds like what happened to you the other morning, but it's about you having that metacognitive awareness where you can say, okay, brain, I know that you're scared right now, but I am in the driver's seat and I'm going to leave this alone. And that's so important, isn't it? And before we finish, something that I know we said is really important to talk about within this is Reddit. Okay. And getting stuck in, I guess, online spaces where you obsess and you talk about your symptoms.
It just perpetuates the cycle, doesn't it? And people often go there with, you kind of feel sorry for them if you have a quick scroll through of the sort of people who are going there just desperate for reassurance. We know that that's what people want in the immediacy of it. But
so harmful. It keeps the cycle going. And if you're online, if you're searching for evidence for, how can we find a cure? Or, trying to find somebody else who has this exact kind of symptom that you have, the more that you're engaging with that and scrolling through Reddit for hours and hours and hours, your brain isn't learning to disengage. The way that we recover from sensorimotor OCD is right now, it is at the top of your priority. Get attention. And we need to give our brain a chance to forget. If you're on Reddit trying to learn everything you can about visual snow, it's going to be staying at the top. I hope this has been helpful for you. Really important subject that's close to my heart, and stay tuned.